So here we are, gathering together again. This is 7 o'clock Pacific time. And so this week, the meditation, as I was indicating in the last couple of days, we're building upon a metaphor I used, that's sitting like a mountain. And the first day, we were just using this metaphor as a way for us to let the earth element, the earthy body resting on earth, and to allow ourselves to feel a sense of grounding, gatheredness, collectedness. And then yesterday, I kind of expanded a little bit of this metaphor to include the breath, kind of this mountain within, the earthy body within has a liveness to it, has a breath with us. This is a life breath that enlivens us. And so they used the metaphor as the breathing mountain. And today we'll expand to include even more dimensions of our being. And this alive being has, the body, physicality of the body, our emotions and minds, kind of like an entire living ecosystem. Like the mountain, the forest, the animals, and it's a whole system. And that's the nature within too. And so that's what we'll be meditating with today. And so I'll begin with the sound of a bell. Let the sound of the bell fade. Arriving at a here and now. Maybe a sense of a coming home to this body, mind, and heart. Maybe it's a kind of a familiar feeling for you to come home here in this body, just how it is, not demanding for it to be otherwise. Just receiving kindly. If it's helpful, you can do a global scan of the body, inviting any slight relaxation and ease that's available to you. From the bottom of the feet all the way to the top of the head. Relaxing and softening if that's available to us. one moment of mindfulness at a time. Moment by moment. You can begin to feel a sense of presence, more steady, the weight of the body settling down naturally, and the torso naturally uplifts. Allowing this earthy body resting on earth. Sitting like a mountain. Grounded, quiet, still. To whatever degree that's available to you. The movement of the breath naturally gets highlighted. The breathing mountain, a life mountain within. Feeling sensations dancing in the body, vibrating, tingling. You may also notice other elements in the body, the water, moisture feeling, like the mists in the mountain. There may be emotions, waves of emotions, like a weather system in the mountain. Open to receive, feel, and sense this entire ecosystem within. releasing the demands, the reactivities. Being curious about the ecosystem within. What do you notice as you immerse yourself into this inner ecosystem? A live mountain, mist, moisture, coolness, sound, weather systems. Is there a kind of a wakefulness here, now, in this nature within, in the Dharma of your own being? There may be natural heart responses to this kind of tenderness, a kind of a care, wonder, gratitude. And there's a possibility of simply being here, aware, wakeful, and alive may be enough. I feel quite quiet within, and maybe feeling a kind of a quiet from all of you also. And this last few days we've been exploring the different aspects of refuge, and started with refuge in the Sangha, refuge in Dharma. And today we'll explore incorporating the refuge in the Buddha. And some of you would know this three forms the kind of triple gem. That's something that often referred to in the reverse order, triple gem of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So refuge in Buddha has an ancient root in Pali Canon text. We often find the words that I go to the Buddha for refuge. And it feels like it maybe makes sense for those who lived in the times of the Buddha, and there was a person, the Buddha, awakened being, to go to and to follow around and maybe to hang out. But what does it mean for us 2,600 years later? There was not a Buddha to hang out with, and so what does this taking refuge in the Buddha mean? So for some people, the Buddha represented a possibility to be free from suffering, dukkha, and he's a human being who realized the Four Noble Truths and became an awakened human being. And that possibility itself, and the fact that there is the Gautama, the Buddha, who did it, may be inspiring and uplifting or aspiring for people. And that may be sufficient for people to feel drawn towards this possibility and to feel the potency of taking refuge in the Buddha. And that's one possibility, and kind of there's a sense of, I'm uplifted by this possibility from this historical figure, the Buddha, Gautama the Buddha. But for others, the sense of a refuge for someone who lived in such a distant time, that refuge can feel somewhat elusive and distant. And given that we just don't know, who this person is and how we relate to them are not completely clear. And so it's sometimes hard to translate the inspiration or the aspiration into something immediate or deeper inside of us. So how might the refuge in the Buddha come alive in us and then touch us in ways that feels meaningful? And so there may be many ways. Some of you may have experienced your own ways of relating to this refuge. And I like to share one aspect of this, one way to relate to this. The word Buddha means awake or awakeness, the one who knows or knowing. And this is kind of knowing that's different from kind of reading a book and getting some kind of information, but rather this is a knowing that is from deep within ourselves. And Gautama the Buddha became awake through this kind of deep knowing, observing the nature of this body, mind, and heart. And so this refuge in the Buddha points to the possibility of being awake and aware, clear seeing. So in a way, this refuge is not asking us to try to become the Buddha, but rather we can cultivate this wakefulness, clear awareness within us. In this way, the cultivation itself is much more immediate, direct, and the possibility is here and now. And it's not in some distant past or the future. I want to read this quote from Ajahn Sumedho's book, Intuitive Awareness. And this is what he described about taking refuge in the Buddha. And so here it is. We're asked to take a refuge in our own ability to be awake, to pay attention to life no matter what the conditions might be in the present moment. The simple willingness to acknowledge things for what they are as changing conditions liberates us from being caught in the power of attachments, in struggling with emotions or thoughts that we're experiencing. So might this be a kind of refuge in the Buddha? Take refuge in our own ability to be awake, to pay attention to life no matter what the conditions might be in the present moment. To me, that really brought the refuge in Buddha close to my life. It's here and now, this moment, in the midst of the happenings, the challenges, the difficulties, and the comfort. It's tangible and it's practical. And it's aligned with the teaching, with the Dharma. And so it's something that we can turn to again and again whenever we remember. And so right here, I can choose to be present, aware, to pay attention. As best as we're able, we're not kind of demanding for it to be somehow like a big light bulb with some high watts or something, but it's just, this moment, what is here? Maybe if I'm frustrated or fearful, I can begin to tune into it and really get to know it. And so Ajahn Sumedho's words, this is simple willingness to acknowledge things for what they are. In our meditation, I use this phrase, not demanding for things to be otherwise. There is kindness and compassion right there, while allowing this awareness, clear knowing to come forth, little by little. So this is a phrase that Ajahn Sumedho would often repeat again and again, is the way it is. Oh, it is the way it is right now. And maybe I'm a little agitated. Oh, it is the way it is. When we know it clearly, we can begin to feel and sense it's a shift and change. Like, in the meditation, I used this nature metaphor. When we're really letting ourselves soak in the mountain, the various ecosystems, kind of softening into this, we can begin to feel and shift the changes in the microsystem. I was doing a hike this last weekend. I began to notice very vividly as I was walking how the forest just changed, the terrain changes. It was not a long hike, but I can just begin to notice, oh wow, the trees have just changed. There was a whole kind of oak tree forest. And as I walked more and more, the oak tree began to change to something different. I don't even know the names of the trees, but they're no longer oaks. And so we can begin to feel and then feel the change of the nature within. Instead of getting caught up in our habitual reactivities, oh, it shouldn't be like this, I must have done something wrong. We get clear about the patterns. We began to notice this extra layers of reactivity are compounding dukkha. They are added, they're created extra. And so this is what Ajahn Sumedho is pointing out. When we begin to see this, it's very natural that we would release it because they make no sense, to be reactive like this. And so it's possible to then, in the moment, by seeing things clearly, it liberates us from being caught in the power of attachment. So we're learning to, little by little, live with lesser and lesser degrees of this compounding dukkha based on our judgments and our habitual tendencies. And so in this way, I'd like to summarize by pointing out that all three refuges, the Triple Gem, are not totally separate. They have separate dimensions or aspects, but they together form a kind of structure for us to point to a kind of cultivation within. Maybe we're uplifted by the possibility of wakefulness like the Buddha, and we are practicing aligned with the Buddha Dharma, and we're affected by the Sangha so that each of us can continue to deepen this possibility of living in a way that is wakeful, aware, compassionate, and caring. And so that's the possibility, and may this refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha offer a kind of orientation for each of us as we navigate our lives. And may it come alive in each of us. So thank you for your attention, everyone. And be well. And may the goodness within be shared with all beings everywhere.